Welcome back to another episode of the Creative Coping Podcast. I am your host, Johnny Anomaly. Today I'm with my guest, Altina Sims. How you doing, Altina?
Hello, how you doing?
Awesome. Doing well. Doing really good. So right now we're actually at the, what is it, words for the
It's Voice of the
Voice
Arts.
of the Arts.
Yes, it's with spoken word as well as all different type of arts that's created.
Awesome.
Not only with photography, but we have artists that paint pictures. We also have display of work, as well as Ari Essentials that sell like body oils and candles, and we also have Zentrice Altovis, which is a fashion designer
Nice.
at the Entrepreneur Center.
Yes.
Yes, full circle.
Awesome. I just wanted to throw that out there. Just
Yes,
'cause
yes,
I'm excited
yes.
to be here. Excited for the invite.
Yes.
So when did you actually start writing, performing your poetry?
Okay.
Or has it always just been something you've always done?
To be honest, I started writing at a young age,
Mhm.
and it was my way that I expressed how I felt to my mom, because it's like I really felt like I couldn't talk to her, and I felt like writing it down would get it all in,
Yeah,
the way I
same.
needed to say
Yeah.
it. And it just started at a young age, and I took a passion, just like taking a liking to it and just talking to mom. And I was like, after that, I really just wrote a lot.
Yeah.
But the real time that I really started is when my son died in
Mm.
2008.
Right.
It's like a year later I had to go through the grieving process.
Mhm.
And through the grieving process, it's like God gave me a whole nother thing. Like, I want you to get out here and say these things that you're writing down. I'm like, oh my God, what are you talking about? Yeah.
Man. And that's kind of the thing with, especially with like this podcast, even with like just artists in general. I know, you know what I mean? We kind of I don't want to say like similar stories, but where it's kind of like those kind of just kind of finding those right ways to say things. Like sometimes the best way to do that is through writing, or
Correct.
and so I kind of felt that same way, kind of getting into poetry. That's kind of how I dealt and grieved, you know what I mean, with my loss. And so just to hear that from you, you know what I mean, I think it just, because there's this correlation between grief and creativity, where it's just kind of like how we just kind of deal with it, you know what I mean, like
Correct.
in a positive way,
Correct.
and to impact people that have gone through the same things. And
Correct.
so
That's
yeah.
other options. Like, we could have
Yeah.
did anything, like
Yeah.
go crazy. We could have
Absolutely.
ended up on drugs. We
Yeah.
could have died, because some people
Yeah.
grieve to the point of death. You understand what I'm
Exactly.
saying?
Exactly.
But I thank God that I didn't decide to go down those lanes, and I decided to cry Him with my mighty cry.
Yeah.
And I remember distinctively that day, after I lost my son, it was like I used to just go lay down on the sofa when I let the kids go off of school, and I would just lay there and lay there and lay there, and I was like, okay, Lord. And I would go to the doctors because something was off, and it just didn't feel right. And they would always try to give me medication, but I knew people who were on different medications that were trying to prescribe me, and I was like, no, I really don't want to do that part, because I saw the outcome of the medication. And I was like, I remember a day that I just took my kids and I locked them in a room, and I turned off all the lights in the house. And I remember basically crying out to God and say, okay, Lord, I'm not crazy. I understand I'm hurting and all these things, but at the same time, I am not about to take these pills. So you're going to have to do something. Like, I went to church, I watched people, they talking about a divine connection and all those things with you. So today you're going to have to do something. So I cried with everything in me. And at the end of my cry, I heard, the joy of the Lord is your strength. And then I started laughing. And I laughed, and if someone was outside, they would have been like, oh my goodness, she finally snapped.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm
Oh,
saying?
yeah, absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
I didn't snap. He gave me joy. I ran in the room and I laid on the floor with the kids, and I basically was like laughing, and I couldn't stop laughing. And I was like, oh my God. I knew it was His voice. I came out of it because I knew it was His voice, and I started fighting toward recovery. You understand what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
exactly.
And even in then going through the toxic avenue of just thinking that I can grieve to a certain extent, but trying to add people to replace the grief.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it came out where I was talking to them negatively. It came out where I started beating people up with my words. But as I went, it wasn't who I was. It just was the things that was in my heart.
Right.
So as I progressed in my healing process, I learned that even though I was saying one thing, even though I didn't mean that one thing, it just was a process that I was going through. So I feel like God took my words and said, you can no longer use these words to tear people down. I need you to work I need you to use these words to build people up.
Yeah.
And ever since that day, that's
Yeah.
what I've been trying to do. Now,
Absolutely.
don't get me wrong, I have off days.
Oh my gosh.
And
Don't
those old
we?
things.
Don't we? Oh my goodness.
But I still choose life every
Yeah.
day. I still choose to speak the word. I still choose to push forward. I have moments, but I don't let those moments define who I am now.
Right.
I keep pushing toward those moments.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
And I think that's one of the hardest things, really, to be honest with you. That was kind of my thought, man. Like so many times where it's like you're looked at as this poet who has these words and you have all these great things to say.
Correct.
But man, behind the scenes, like you can really tear people apart, like with your
Correct.
words, because it's like, and that's kind of my biggest thing. Like, and it's sad that really the closest people to you are normally the ones that get hurt the most by what
Correct.
you say, and so
Yes.
most of the time you feel like a hypocrite standing on a stage speaking life.
Yes.
And then, the last conversation you had with, like in my instance with my wife or whatever, was like something negative, and
Correct.
just speaking death and tearing down. It's like, man,
Correct.
you feel like sometimes like a hypocrite standing up there,
Yeah, but I even want to encourage you with that because usually the ones that are closer in the home, and even though we use those words, but usually that's our first.
Yeah.
That's our first part to realize because we really don't want to tear down the ones that we love.
No, absolutely.
We don't care what we do about people outside.
Yeah, exactly,
You understand what I'm saying?
right.
Oh, you can get it.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, exactly.
You can get it, but when it's somebody that we love,
Yeah.
we really don't want to hurt them.
Yeah.
So even with that, we consider what God does, right? He has this unconditional love, and then he gives us babies, right?
Right.
That
yeah.
we have no choice but show unconditional love, whether
Yeah.
you tearing it down or making me smile. Unconditional love, because that's just a small part of what God has for us, and because we have this unconditional love, even when it comes down to our mates, because we love them anyway, even though they speak death to us, even though we speak death, but we're willing to work on it because it's somebody that we love.
Yep. Yep.
So
it's just patience, long suffering. You know
or
what I mean?
is it
long suffering?
But long suffering, what I learned back in the days is long suffering is not a bad thing. Long suffering, we always looked at long suffering was just like a burden, but it's actually not a burden because long suffering, if you go and read, it's the fruits.
Yep.
It's the fruit of the
that's 1
spirit.
Corinthians,
Correct.
Yeah,
it's the
yeah.
fruit, and I never looked at it like that.
Yep.
I just thought it was a painful process, and it's not.
Nope.
It's not. Long suffering is mean I can do it.
Yeah. And
I
with
can
someone
do it.
you love, you could do this together. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, it is.
And it's about building up even after we have torn them down.
Yeah.
Because now we can sit here and actually listen and teach, and they can listen and teach, because some areas that our spouses are going to be strong at is not going to be the areas that we're strong at.
Right.
And some
exactly.
areas that we're strong at, they won't be. But that's how God do it.
Yeah.
Just the way he wants it.
Just connects it
done.
like that. You know what I
Correct.
mean? Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
And even for the areas, like I say, where we fall short, our mate, husband, wife, you know what I mean, kind of picks up that slack that we kind of lack on, and so yeah. But getting into the next question, so about your book, Broken Images, so how, I guess, where I guess it came from, because after reading the book, kind of, I guess if you can explain to the listeners kind of where that came from, and throughout the book, I noticed there's a lot of take on identity, and just helping people, I guess, find their identity. If you want to speak on that a little bit. Or?
Okay, I want to talk about the broken part first.
Right. Okay.
So you experienced the death of a child.
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
So how broken can you be?
Yeah.
Pretty broken. I
Pretty
lost
broken.
my mom. My dad wasn't a part of my life. But when my son passed, that was as broken as I can be. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was completely broken. So all the other things that was already in me, it was basically it's all broken.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I went through an abusive relationship, which it wasn't my identity of who I was, but it was something that I went through. But I took it on as my identity.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I went through the death of my child, which was something that I went through, but I took it on as my, the mourning, the suffering, and all those things. I took it on, and then it started seeping into my heart and started coming out of my mouth. So I started looking in the mirror also after that, and I hated what I saw.
Right.
And I was like, I can't understand that everybody think I'm so beautiful, but in my insides, it was so bad. So in order to fix the problem, we have to first identify the problem.
Absolutely.
And God just started showing me, look, even though this happened in your life, doesn't mean that's who you are.
Yeah.
So there were images that I took on. So God had to break those images because that's no longer me. Even walking into whatever He has me walking into now.
Yeah.
It's like I still have the old things that used to keep me bound, telling me I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't go for it. But know what? The devil is a liar.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I'm going to push forward and I'm going to continue to do.
That's it. That's all you can do. Yeah.
That's it. That's it. Because that's not a part of your identity. It's who you became. It was your surroundings that influenced you. I watched my mom go through it. It was something that I grew up in and I thought it was okay. And it wasn't okay. But at the same time, some things I didn't have where someone was able to teach me that it wasn't okay. Right. So those things I had to go through with God. It's like, no, that's not okay. It's not okay for you to treat that person in any type of way. Everybody has a bad day, but if I'm having a bad day, y'all can get it. Like, and I know I say that, but that's the truth because on our angry days, we're not at our best.
No, absolutely
we're not at our best.
Not, absolutely not.
And we have to be honest about that because first you have to be honest, like something is wrong.
Yeah. Absolutely.
That's the honest part first.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the thing with I think, like just I think our poetry in general is kind of like revealing those things like, hey, I'm messed up. I'm broken. Like I'm going through it. And I think with doing that has helped other people, you know what I mean? Kind of relay that message of kind of like of hope. Like, look, this is where I was. This is where I am. This is where I'm trying to go. You know what I mean? So you see this progression.
Correct.
And so, yeah, we're not supposed to be bound up by what we were and what we did and all these other mistakes and everything. It's all about pushing forward.
But I also want to say this part. We're not supposed to lie about who we are either.
Right.
And we're not supposed to act as if we didn't go through the things that we went through.
And
because
we
want to talk about the wholeness, but we don't want to talk about what got us to the wholeness or working on getting to the wholeness. To say, oh, one day I'm cussing and fussing. Just yesterday. You understand what I'm saying? To be that honest because we're teaching these words, but we're lying if we're saying that we're so perfect. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
And we have to be that honest because a lot of people get hurt when they walk into church because we're operating in what God has us at now, but we don't want to identify what we were. Right. Like you still in the church and you still got issues. Guess what?
Absolutely.
I got issues too.
Absolutely.
And today I had an issue and I was mad and I want to maybe throat check someone. I don't know if you're going to be able to use that, but
no, I'll use it. This is as real as it gets right here. Like, you know what I mean?
Sometimes you feel like
and that's what I aim for. Even going into it, and I might even cut this part out. Who knows? I don't know. I might even keep it.
Keep it out.
But I think that's the part of like this podcast. Is like I feel like so many people like they need that realness because that gives them an opportunity to see, oh, I can be real too. You know, because so many times like people will come in maybe like in churches or wherever with this front on, with this mask on, like hey, you know. And trying to, when really in all reality, we know we're all screwed up. Like we know we're all going through something. You know what I mean? And more power to those who are actually gonna say, look. Yeah, I am. I'm messed up. I'm going through something. You know, I'm dealing with this or I'm dealing with that or, you know, regardless of what it is, you know, for me personally, like my thing is like sometimes I got like a really short fuse and like it just doesn't take much to just for me to just go off. But and it's like, you know, I'm working on it, you know, and it's like it's that constant prayer like God just change me. Like, you know what I mean? So it's every day. It's kind of like what Paul talked about, like just you know what I mean, in the Bible where it's just talking about like just daily having to crucify your flesh. You know what I mean? Like always, constantly, every day. So every day, you know, you just go through those things. But I think with poetry and just with art in general, you know, you can kind of paint a broader picture and just kind of, you know, like I said, to have that platform to be able to speak into people's lives is incredible. It's an incredible blessing and honor and gift to, you know, be able to do that. And so that's why I feel like it's not with the things we've gone through. It's not in vain. You know, it's like we've kind of picked up the pieces, you know what I mean? And we're just kind of just showing who we are and hopes that somebody else can see not only how broken we were, but how great God is at restoring us, you know? And so,
because it's the thing that's inside of us that's drawing. You understand what I'm saying? Oh, you ain't that cute. Yeah, I may have some dope clothes and all these things, but the reality is the light that's in me that's draw people, and it's the light that's in you.
Absolutely.
And hopefully we can become as real as we need to be in front of people to be that transparent so we can say, hey, let me tell you who sent us here. Let me tell you the reason why I'm on this platform. Let me tell you it wasn't me by myself, and every day is a struggle, but at the same time it's almost like alcoholism. you can recover, but you're still gonna have that struggle for the
Yeah.
rest of your life. But
Right.
long as you're honest enough to people, well, honest enough to God first, and then people, then
Right.
you can progress to whatever's next. You just
Absolutely.
have to be honest, and you have to be willing.
Yeah.
You have to be willing. I'll go.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I'll go. That's just what it is. Like I'll go. Like I don't know what I'm gonna say when I get there, but
Yeah.
I'll go.
Yeah.
And you know, I worry because I do have a lot of broken English, and it's all good. But it's like, Lord, this is the best I can do. And He's like, I'll send you.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, I
I'll
think that's the
send you.
thing
Yeah.
with like just the way God is. It's like I'll use whatever you got. You know what I mean? Like
Correct.
I bless you with the ability to speak,
Correct.
whether it's broken or not. Like you're gonna
Correct.
reach people. You know what I mean? Just
Yes.
you know what I mean? And he'll move through you. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? He'll work through you through that.
Willing.
And so yeah,
Willing, long as you're
absolutely,
willing. Yeah.
absolutely.